Hey guys, welcome to the Titanium Vault. I'm your host, RJ Bass III, and today I'm sitting down with the queen of the Closers Olympics, Miss Jen Coronado. How you doing, Jen?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. So, for those of you that don't know, and see, I can say this because I have now, I will be competing in my third Closers Olympics here later in July. I now realize this is the woman that makes the Closers Olympics happen. Okay, don't let Elijah and Keith fool you. Okay, Jen is the engine that keeps this machine alive. She is behind the scenes working like a mad woman to make sure that the production is of the highest of quality. Everyone's on time and ready and doing what they need to do. Jen, it's an honor to have you, and I wanted to give you some spotlight here because I
Yay.
think you deserve it. So, I,
That's great.
my question to you is about the Closers Olympics.
Yep.
They refer to you as the integrator. Is
Right.
that a role that you naturally fall into as an integrator?
I I mean I would say the technical term would be integrator, operations man. At the end of the day, I like to think of myself as like the person who's gonna just do whatever it takes to put on a good show.
Right. So that's not a natural role for you to fall in, or it
It
is.
is. It is. I mean, I would say it is. I run a operation. I run operations for my real estate business naturally. So I tend to realize that there's a lot of people with good ideas and not a lot of people willing to execute those ideas. So I
Right.
take pride in execution.
I love it. I love it. So let's talk about the actual day of the Closers Olympics when everything's live. Um, because I'm lucky, I'm one of the contestants, so I just get to show up and do what I do. You've got to manage a lot of egos, a lot of people showing up on time and stuff like that. What is your day like during the actual competition? What are you doing behind the scenes to wrangle all of us knuckleheads?
It's a lot, it usually just tends to, there's always some fires to burn, there's some fires to put out. We don't burn fires. I'm a fire damage queen too. So I don't make fires. I get rid of them. So there's always something going on, whether it be, with sponsors or whether it be that people just, all of a sudden don't know how to get to the event, even though there's been onboarding calls and emails and all that good stuff. So it really just takes solving problems. Is very similar to what you do every day with the business, right? It's
Right.
ultimately just taking it one problem at a time. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to this event. There being just a lot more support and things just being easier for me. But the main day for the event is usually just a lot of coffee, a lot of chaos, and I just do that's my favorite thing. So I love being in the chaos and just being like the calm one who's just like, all right, everyone, we got this. We're gonna figure it out. Let's just keep pushing forward.
I love it. Me and Cassie, we do our 2-day boot camps here at our office, and I know when that final moment of the second day, when everyone leaves the office, this sort of exhaustion
Right.
hits. Where it's like, oh, we did it. Okay, it's over. Is that what it's like for you when Closers Olympics is finally
Oh my god.
complete?
It is like I think I the first close Olympics I remember crying afterwards of just it was like a sense of accomplishment, stress. I can't believe I just went through that. And I mean, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes and it's never been done before. So we're just creating it as we go. And it's like you're running a real estate office, right? Because you need the leads, you need everything to be working behind the scenes. You're also doing like a sport event. So I'm like running an NBA show, or I don't know, it feels like a
Right.
sport event and like a whole, there's like so many guests. So it's like one of the biggest, like, I don't know, Emmy event or BT event, like some sort of award show because there's so many different people that need to go in and out. So I just remember the last day like literally being in tears, like happy tears and sad tears at the same time, stress tears, and just having to like lay back on my back because there was so much stress, and I was like in front of the computer for what is it, like 20 hours,
Right.
few
So let's
days.
let's rewind back to the first one, 2020. Okay, I want to know where you were kind of emotionally during that, because 2020 was kind of crazy, right?
It was
You know,
crazy.
you had the, I was mad at Carlos, right?
Right.
And then there was the whole chat thing with the judging there. I think Chris Jefferson, he had some beef with his judging as well. And then in the meantime, your man Elijah makes it all the way to the finals, is in competing in the finals, right? So there's got to
Right.
be some like emotional, like you're wanting Elijah to win, and it's also the first time you've ever done this. So when it was over, were you kind of like, well, we did it, I don't ever want to do that again, or were you kind of like, we can do that better? Where were y'all like emotionally with that?
Yeah, it was definitely an emotional roller coaster. I remember all of that, and it was like the longest event, but the shortest event all at the same time. And I just remember like not even having the space to really consider what everyone was thinking or about the judging or whether they liked it or not. It was really like if we could just get to the end of this, it'll be success, right? When we at some point I just realized we're not going to make everyone happy, and that's not the goal. It's literally just to do the best that we can, one decision at a time. And but it was definitely, a lot of it was relying on me because I am kind of like playing referee behind the scenes, which I had no idea, right? I was like, here's the scorecard. It was my first time. And I'm just really, one thing I realized very early on was it doesn't matter. Like I know Carlos, I know a lot of the guys personally, and even including Elijah, obviously. And my goal was just like to be as neutral. It just felt like I was like becoming a judge of like the Supreme Court justice or something. Like I'm just like, I don't care who you are. I have to be super neutral because the event or the integrity of the Closer Olympics is going to rely on that. If I want to make sure everyone is, no one's getting, extra credit or any of that.
Right.
So that was like my biggest focus point there, was to keep it super fair.
And I think you guys have done a pretty good job of that. I mean, it's a it's a difficult event to put on and make sure that it's judged fairly. Even like 2021, some feedback about like Steve was too tough on people. Christina was too, she gave everyone great scores, and
Yeah.
it's like at the end of the day, that's the human element of it, right? There's the element of having a judge that's also part of the competition. I mean, it's very similar to gymnastics or diving, where like they have judges in the Olympics, and it's like at the end of the day, it's they were hired to do a job, and hopefully they do it to the best of their abilities. And I think you guys have done a good
Right.
job putting together a good cast of judges every single time. Let's talk about this year, 2023. What's going to be different about this Closers Olympics than the first two?
So I'm looking forward to this event. I feel like one thing that we did is we took a break, right? The last two was the first event, it literally was 3 weeks that we put it together. So it was right when the pandemic hit. Everyone was at home. And while, people are like, it was just so much craziness going on. And we were just staying up till 3 a.m. every day, like planning this event. It was crazy. And we knew there was no sports at the time. So we knew everybody was going to watch. And I feel like if we wouldn't have took advantage of that, I don't know how big this event would have ever been. But because there was literally nothing else, and no one was doing virtual events yet, people weren't really able to organize
Right.
that fast. That's what kind of, we took advantage of that. So that event was obviously just kind of thrown together. And then the second one, we had some more experience, but then we took a whole year off this time. And we've been meeting every month and all the time. So we're way more prepared. I feel like the show's going to be a smoother show. I feel like we have some really good, we have a lot of familiar faces still, but we did do the qualifiers event this year, which I'm really excited about, where we have, we're able to like put it out for the general, public to be able to compete and qualify to be able to join. So it's not just the big brand names, but people, everyday people who are just out there closing deals that have the opportunity on day one. So I think that is going to be a huge difference, is that we have some people that are going to be coming in that nobody knows. And we get to see, last year we had a little bit of that with Munif. And as you saw, he was second place. He was right. You're really close. If you wouldn't have got those deals under contract live, he probably
Right.
would have got you.
And the thing about that is last week's episode on the podcast was with Scotty B. Um, Funny enough, the dude has two last names. I've always called him Scotty Balsamo, but it's actually Balsamo Holmes. I found out in the podcast his actual name is Scotty Barron. I've
Okay.
always just called him Scotty Balsamo because that's what he told me his name was, but it's actually not. So
But where does Balsamo come from?
his first house he ever bought was on Balsamo Street. And so he
Wow.
said, my stage name is going to be Scotty Balsamo.
Funny.
So,
So is your name Richard Bates? Is that your actual name?
that's my actual name. Yeah.
Okay, good. You said check.
So, but no, I think he's going to be this year's Munif. I've been saying that for a while, and I love it. He got the chance in the qualifiers to compete against three other people. He won, and now he gets the opportunity to compete at the Closers Olympics. And I think that's an amazing opportunity, something that you guys not only are you saying, hey, we'll do the Closers Olympics, but months in advance, we're going to put together a production of all of these, qualifying rounds, for free on YouTube. If you guys haven't checked it out, check out the Closers Olympics YouTube channel. You can see all these qualifying runs, and they're awesome. Just people that maybe you've heard of or maybe you haven't. But regardless, they're showing you how to do their, how they work their businesses every single day. What about the leads? Because in the past, the leads have been cold called, VAs kind of teeing them up for us. How are we changing the leads this year?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that. So we actually are partnering up with our lead provider, Lead Zolo, who's going to be flooding us with leads, which I know you're familiar with, and you've helped, connect us there. So yeah, we're really excited about those. So these are, like essentially PPC leads coming in, and they are going to be vetted. So we're going to make sure that we still have some cold callers, but they're going to be making sure that these people are answered and that they already expect a call in that specific day. So we're just going to make sure that we're doing everything we can so that when the closers show up, all they got to do is, make those calls and they're already going to be getting more answers you only have 30 minutes. So it's our goal is to just make that where every person is answering or every other person is answering. We don't want you guys just dialing, and it makes the event a lot longer too if we have to give you guys extra time.
And the thing, the big difference there is it's a lot harder to get a signed contract on a cold call lead than it is on an inbound lead. And so I think we're going to see more
100%.
signed contracts disclosures than in the past. So I think that's a great addition. Just to really see, because I'll be honest, the verbal agreements and the signed contracts that I got, they were highly motivated sellers. I mean, they were good leads.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. It wasn't like I converted someone that was like, no, I don't want to close to, okay, now I'm signing a contract 28 minutes later.
Right.
These people were like, I want to sell. I think we're going to see that this time where almost every lead is similar to that. So it'll be interesting to really see who can actually close better.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think maybe, do you think it was also the market at the time? I feel like the market 2020, you're talking, right? There was a lot going on at the time. So sellers were already on the edge. So if they were motivated at that time, they probably were trying to get rid of it then with all the uncertainty. And then 2021, I think that's when we were seeing the market. A lot of people, I think worse then. So we'll see. I feel like the market is really weird right now. It's kind of hard to tell. Like we're still getting deals. We're still able to close them, but people are really.
I think it's going to depend on locations too. I mean, I think location's going to matter. I think certain locations, Midwest, Sunbelt states, those are always just going to be good places. But now we're starting to see, like in y'all's neck of the woods in Phoenix, people that have a little bit more motivation. Whereas maybe, 2020, I'd be like, oh, hell, I don't want a Phoenix lead in the Closers Olympics. Like, what am I going to do with this? I'm going to get hung up on. But yeah, it will be interesting to see, and it'll be interesting to see just with the different lead source, and also with people that, quite frankly, close a lot more frequently than, say, like what you were talking about, some of these big names that are more just owners of the businesses than actual closers. So it'll be interesting to see that. Now, away from Closers Olympics, because you're more than just Closers Olympics. You also, like you said, you're the fire damage queen as well. I want to talk about that. So you guys are in real estate, but where did you come up with this niche about fire damage houses? How did that come about?
Fire damage. Yeah, it's very niche. And we didn't come up with it. I mean, we really stumbled across it, and very similar to the Closer Olympics. It's like when you see an opportunity, right? It's like I can sit here and try to act like I can come up with the best idea, or I can take something that's obviously hasn't been done and I can go and run with that and really add value, And I think that was really where it started. It was we kept coming across these fire damage deals, and we've been like notoriously known for like having some of the most difficult deals. There's like a lot of the other wholesalers in our which we have a lot of gurus in Phoenix, right? A lot of wholesalers, a lot of big names, so they always make fun of us for having these like crazy deals because we specialize in probate. Elijah's father is a probate attorney, and so we learned a lot about probate and how to find them and how to, get those. And this was before PPC, before all of this, right? We were just door knocking, doing just very like boots in the ground type of work. And so we were just, that's the only way we knew how to find deals. And some of these probate deals or city violation deals we were getting were fire damage, right? They were just like sitting there for years or like months, and we kept asking people about these, and people were like, "Oh, don't do nothing. We don't want, don't even mess with that. That's not even a deal, or that's gonna take too long. We don't even know how to analyze those." Like people were just kept telling us no to these deals. So that's where we were like, "Oh, there's some. What do you mean no? Like this is a real estate. What are we talking about here? Even if it's just the land or the lot, like what does it take?" So we started doing some research, talking to some public adjusters, meeting up with all kinds of people in the industry, and we started realizing that nobody's really doing anything with these. Realtors don't know what to do with them. Wholesalers don't want anything to do with them. Rehabbers stay away from them. So we were like, somebody needs this. And that's when we started connecting the dots. And we've been essentially talking about it ever since. It's not all we do, but it is like a big piece of what we focus on. And since we've been coaching on it, we have a Facebook group with 5,000 people or so. People send us these deals now from all over the country. So that's a major lead source for us.
Absolutely. So on those, because funny enough, I don't know if you know this or not, but mine and Cassie's first business was insurance supplement for roofing contractors. So,
Wow.
not necessarily fire damage, but say like a hailstorm or storm
Yeah.
damage, we were doing the supplements, kind of like what a public adjuster does.
Right.
So, on these fire damage houses, are you dealing with the insurance claims? Is that a part
Yeah.
of y'all's deal?
Exactly. So once we started talking to people about these, and again, just talking to sellers about what was going on and connecting them with public adjusters, that's when we realized, wait a minute, a lot of these sellers are not getting all the money that they deserve for, their fire damaged property. They're pretty much depending on who they are to how savvy they are, a lot of these insurance companies, they're not trying to pay everything that they deserve. They're definitely cutting to the so once we realized that we could help them, we would JV with them, and then we would JV with the public adjusters, and we would essentially tell them, hey, you get as much money as you can get, and then we're going to bring in our policy specialist. Right? We're going to bring our policy specialist who's going to see how much more money we can get for you, and if we don't find anything, you owe us nothing. If we do get you more money, then we just get 50% of any new money that we find. So that's a no-brainer for them, a win-win for us to work on. And then that 50% we end up splitting with the public adjuster, and the public adjuster is getting free leads from us, so they're happy. And in a lot of these deals, I mean, there was one of the deals that we initially started working on was a 10-unit deal where we were able to get the seller an extra $150,000 in a supplemental. claim.
Yep.
So that's one of the three checks that we talk about in terms of the opportunity with fire damage, that we realize, hey, this is a way that you can specialize in these opportunities. And even if, without it, a lot of these end up being really, really good deals if you're able to get them at the right price.
Absolutely. Are y'all ever doing assignment of benefits, or is it pretty much like, do you ever do where the claim is assigned to the end buyer, or no? Is it pretty much those funds go to the seller, and then maybe even like what you're talking about, you get a piece of it as well?
I think that's essentially like, there was initially that we were doing some of that, and we just kind of started staying away from it just because it can get a little messy,
It
with that
can.
on how to get that over to the end buyer. So we did that, I think, like maybe once or twice, and then we were like, yeah, we're not gonna do all this. So what we've done instead is, being able to find the end buyer, and we can always work a deal with them, or there's different ways to that, but we stay away from any messy supplemental claim stuff. We try to keep it really clean, just like wholesaling, right? The idea is to really help the seller set things up right, and keep it nice and clean for everyone.
Understood. Because assignment of benefits is more of like, it's popular where hurricanes are, like down in Florida. Actually,
Hmm.
Florida just made it where it's extremely difficult to do that. But I actually had a buddy of mine. We actually helped him in the process. He ended up getting a house essentially for free because of the
Well,
assignment of benefits from the insurance claim, from the hurricane damage. So it is those insurance claims on damaged houses. It doesn't have to just be fire damage. It could be water damage. It could be storm damage. When I did the initial 50-50-50 challenge, there was a derecho or whatever they're called, that hit Iowa. And when I started marketing in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, I found out that this motivated a ton of sellers, and that we ended up getting like 12 properties under contract there because they got hit with this massive storm, and they were like, "We already got paid from the insurance, so we'll basically sell our house for next to nothing." So
yep.
yeah, anytime you see any sort of property damage from essentially an act of God, that can
Right.
be probably the number one motivating factor, way
Motivation.
more than like pre-foreclosure or tax delinquent or anything else that is real estate
Exactly.
investors we think of. So I love the fact that you guys found that niche in there and really have capitalized on it. So have, were you in real estate prior to your relationship with Elijah?
Yes. Yes, I was. I've been, yeah, since I was
How long have
21.
you been in real estate?
I'm trying to think of, but how old am I? 10 years now. So since I was 21,
Woo!
I started. Yeah. So it was very humble beginnings. I had no idea what I was doing. I was a receptionist for a investor, and he was going out and buying houses at the auction. And so I had a friend who I was working with, and she was like, "Oh, there's a position for receptionist," and I'm like, "Sure thing." And then next thing you know, he asked me to put together the bid list for him and just highlight the properties that fit his buying criteria. I had no idea I was already starting in real estate, so it was
Right.
really cool to start from there, and then transaction coordinating, and then that's when Elijah hired me to do transaction coordinating, and then yeah, and we worked together for over 18 months. And I helped him make a lot of money, and he put a ring on it after that.
The greatest close Elijah's ever had, right there. All right. So my question is, do you ever close sellers?
I do. I close a lot of Spanish sellers, especially. Yeah, I would just say, yeah, mostly Spanish sellers. And I also do a lot of dispo. So I do dispo, and I close a lot of Spanish sellers.
I
But
got you.
usually Elijah's he's got that. So I try to just do everything else. I'm already doing so much that I'm like, you can handle this. This is your area of expertise. Like, why would we have anyone else do this? So
That's funny. So on the disposition side, let's talk about that because a lot of times that's like the forgotten part of this business. Sometimes I feel like, it's acquisitions is sexy, getting the signed contract, people want to see that. Closers Olympics doesn't help in that. I mean, right? Closers Olympics essentially glorifies getting the acquisition done. But it doesn't
Yep.
matter if you can't sell the property, right? No checks happen if you don't dispo it. So, uh,
Right.
talk about the kind of the conversations that you're having on a daily basis, and what does that look like? What are some tips that you can give to people that are maybe struggling with dispositions?
Yeah, so dispo, I mean, I think the magic is definitely, created in the acquisition of the deal, right? Because if you get a deal like a good price, then it like pretty much just flies off the shelves.
Right,
And it also just depends on the type of deal that it is. I mean, even if you get a good deal at a good price, if it's in the middle of nowhere or if it's just not a desirable property for buyers, then it could be a harder sell. So I would say a few tips I would say is really understand on dispo side, it's really about qualifying your buyers more than anything. You could get a lot of time wasters, a lot of tire kickers, or I like Elijah says, sellers are, what is it? Or sellers are liars and buyers are storytellers. I forget. I always mess up. I need to stop doing that. But the idea is that a lot of or buyers are liars, sellers are storytellers.
yeah.
So buyers are liars. So that's been the number one thing that I deal with is, I mean, you have daisy chainers, right? Other wholesalers, other realtors, like people, all types of people calling you just about this property, or somebody down the street who just wants to know about it. So the idea is really just to be able to have a good system in place to vet your buyers. Whether, a couple questions, do you already have the financing in place? And if they don't know what you're talking about, then don't waste your time with them, right?
Right.
uh if they're right, the best buyers are really quick. They're like, hey, I'm ready to buy this property. Those are the type of buyers that you want to talk to. They're very right to it. And use your tools. So one of our sponsors is going to be Investor Lift. So when I got on that system, I was like so mad that I didn't think of it myself. And and when I met Robert, the owner, I learned that he went to Harvard. So I'm like, that makes sense.
Right.
Right? Like, okay, that makes sense. But I was so mad that I didn't think of that system. And so using right now, it's just like so much easier with Facebook Marketplace. Just sending out email blasts and using Investor Lift. There's no reason why you can't at least get some good feedback on your property. So if you're getting a lot of people telling you it's overpriced, then you might need to go back and talk to your seller and figure out if you could get a better price for that. But if you are using your tools, you can get a lot of eyeballs on it. That's really the name of the game, is just get as much eyeballs on your properties as possible.
And I want to just tie a little bow on everything you just said there, because I agree with everything. But go back to the first statement you said, right? The disposition starts with the acquisition. And I think one of the things that people don't realize is I use Investor Lift when I'm acquiring properties.
Yep.
So let's look at what we're going to be doing in Closers Olympics. We're going to have lead Zolo leads, right? So they're going to be all across the United States.
Hmm.
So you get a deal. I'll use an example. Today during the 50-50-50, I got a deal in Ironwood, Michigan. I don't even know where Ironwood, Michigan is, right? It's in the upper peninsula of Michigan, where I've never done a deal. I've done a lot of deals in Michigan, but never in the upper peninsula, which is basically the northern part of Wisconsin. So what I did is instead of just saying no, I went into Investor Lift. I went to my buyers. I searched how many buyers do I have there, and I realized I had 1,500 buyers. So then I was able to tell the seller I can move this deal because Investor Lift told me. So there is, the lead source we're using in the Closers Olympics, the main sponsor, we're using it for dispositions, but I used it during acquisitions
Hmm.
to make sure that I could move that property. Whereas prior to having Investor Lift, what I would have told that seller is I I can't do anything with this. Maybe we could tie
Right.
it up and try Facebook Marketplace or try to find like a Facebook group or something like that. But the reality of it is the chances were going to be slim to none that we were going to be able to move that deal. Whereas now it's like, 1,500 buyers. I'm pretty confident I can move that deal. And just like you said, once we get on the phone with our buyers, it's about getting solid feedback and just understanding if we've got a good deal on our hands. So great tips there. And also, I love the fact that the two main, systems that we're going to be using in Closers Olympics work so well hand in hand. You
Yeah,
know,
they do.
I mean, without investor lift, it's almost it's really hard to use like lead Zolo, because it just opens you up to the that knowing that you can dispo deals. And like I said, at the end of the day, if you can't dispo a deal, what's the point in getting it under contract? So
Right. And
I love
yours, I mean, I think you're really one of the first, I would say, or the primary coaches that are, because I consider you a coach, with what you're doing, that is sharing what it's like to virtually wholesale or do real estate all over the country. I mean, I don't see a lot of people talking about that,
right,
specifically showcasing it. And I think that's a huge, if when you're able to do that, I mean, you open up your lead gen to so much, you have so much capacity right now. That's something that I can't say we specialize in. We try to stay in Arizona and California areas because we're so comfortable with our buyer and our database. Whereas we could definitely be using Investor Lift and Lead Zolo to go, outside of this range. But I always recommend investors to start in their backyard, like really get to know those deals. And that's what we've found a lot of success in, is just really getting clear with, when we still get some that are like up north, Phoenix. I mean, I'm selling right now in Bullhead City. We get Sierra Vista, like all types of some places I haven't even heard of in Arizona. So it's very similar. We use the
yep.
tools for that. But yeah, being able to be all over the country. I mean, you have just different regulations that usually we don't like to deal with. But that's something that, do you talk about that in your 50 states?
Oh yeah,
Just
yeah. I
how to
mean, we
navigate
just
those?
got a deal under contract in Nebraska, and we found out that Nebraska changed the laws.
Mm,
And now, in order to wholesale, you have to be represented by a licensed realtor.
mm. They're doing.
There's no choice. And they were sending cease and desist letters to my dispositions manager's house. I mean,
Wow.
that's how serious they are about it. So yeah, there's all kinds of different things that pop up. But the reality of it is those are hurdles that we have chosen to try to overcome, because
Yep.
what that does is that runs a lot of people out, which means those sellers that need to sell to investors, there's now even more of them available for us. So that's kind
Nice.
of our thought process on it. But yeah, it's similar to what you guys do with the fire damage properties.
Mhm.
Y'all just chose to dive into that. We chose to dive into the nationwide aspect of it.
That makes sense.
Whereas we go get the properties in rural North Carolina and make a 15K rip on it. Whereas most people would look at that and say, what am I going to do with that? They move on and say, I
Right.
need this in Charlotte or Raleigh or places like that. For us, it's like, no, we know our guys. We can instantly
Mhm.
sell that and make 15K on it. So it's just different ways of doing it. It's funny. We all have our ways of finding our little niches that we do. And I think that's going back to the Closers Olympics. I think that's been one of the cool things that you guys have really showed off as well, is the different ways that people do this business,
Yeah.
the different ways people can talk to sellers, uh,
Mhm.
and also just when you really dive into people's businesses, really seeing like how the similar businesses can be run differently. Like you and Elijah have made the decision that y'all are going to be like Arizona, California, specific with the fire damage on top of it. You guys have been in some of the toughest markets in the United States, but yet
Yeah.
have been successful with it, which is amazing. I'm curious, is California because you brought the California side of things? Is that what happened there?
No, I'm from born in Mexico, but I've been raised here in South Phoenix in Arizona. And the reason why we do is obviously there's a lot of fires in California,
Gotcha.
and a lot of our when we started doing our fire damage coaching, we were just putting out videos, sharing it, and so many people were coming in from California. So like half of our coaching, like all of our students were out there, and they were just bringing us, and we were JVing deals with them. So it just became something that we realized, again, an untapped market. You would think in California there's fire damage
Yeah.
experts, but this is just a very untapped market. So we're willing to do deals, fire damage deals nationwide. and we've done New York. We'll do any deal on fire damage anywhere because we know that the deals that we can get a good, get them for pennies at the dollar.
Right.
And so we'll do that, but we try to stay do like all the regular, marketing, just leave it out on this side number, also because we can easily, it's one flight away, it's like an hour flight away, so if I could go see a property, I'm always out there. I was just in San Diego for 10 days like a couple weeks ago. We can go back out to San Diego for another 10 days in August. So we like just, that's the beach. We're in the desert, so it's so hot here, there's nothing to do. So that's like what we like to do. We like to go to San Diego.
Gotcha. So, other thing I want to touch base on is I know it's an important part of your life. Talk to the moms out there. The moms that want to be real estate investors. They want to do this full time. What's that journey been like? And talk to the other women out there that maybe use that as an excuse to not get in the business, because you don't let that be an excuse for you.
Absolutely not. I mean, I think it ultimately comes down to your why. Once you get really clear, I'm very passionate about this. I want to see more women. I've had people tell me, "Why don't you do a course for women, or why don't you put something out?" I'm like, "I'm building the Closer Olympics. Like, what do you mean?"
Right.
Like, I'm putting something out to showcase anybody, any gender can watch this and learn sales from the best closers. I mean, I'm pretty much like, I took, I don't know how much your coaching is to get coaching from you. And I know that now obviously you're sharing a lot of it live, and I love to see that. But a lot of people, if you didn't pay thousands of dollars, you wouldn't get to see closers closing deals live. They might tell you how to do it. They might tell you what they've done, but very rarely will they show you what they're doing to
Right.
close the deals. So I was really impressed watching Elijah when I first met him. Just calls, like getting in at 9 and at 5, on the phone the entire time. I mean, I could barely even, talk to him because he was so busy making calls. And I saw that was a huge difference from realtors. I came from like that realtor background doing the transaction coordinating. And I didn't even want to do realtor because I was like, this is not fun. I don't want to bake cookies and do an open house and, like have people praying if they're going to get a house. Like, I didn't like that aspect of real estate. I'm not going to lie. That's why I did transaction coordinating. I was like, just give me my money. Let me do the paperwork. 300 a file, whatever. I'll get it done. And so when I learned about wholesaling, I'm like, what? No way. No way. You could just talk to somebody who needs to sell, and you don't have to have a realtor license. You don't need to go through all the emotions. Just agree to a price and sell it to an investor who's also just looking at it from, a financial aspect, and they're just going to say yes, and you just make 10,000 or 20,000. I was like, I don't care how long it takes. I'm going to learn this, and getting back to being a mom, that is why, I became a mom at a very early age. I had no business becoming a mom at 18, but like that's what happened, and I had a choice to step up, and that was my why. So real estate for me is been so life-saving for me, for my daughter. To learn this business has provided me with the lifestyle of my dreams, and not only that, but now that's why I'm so passionate about teaching other people and giving everybody access to this knowledge where I didn't even know this existed. So I would love to see more moms learning this business, getting into the business. I'm looking forward to seeing Jen tomorrow. Jen is a mom. She's out there crushing it. And being a part of the Coastal Olympics, it allows me to showcase more women. And I think that's what we need. Women need to see women doing this business. So
It's funny. I see people, they complain about the closers Olympics, and they say like, why aren't there more women competing? And I'm like, guys, there's literally tryouts,
yeah.
and there's not women trying out.
Hmm.
Like, you have the opportunity. Put yourself out there. Like, we all want it. I want it. I tell Cassie all the time, I'm like, she is a better closer than me.
Yeah. Women are natural closers.
Yes. I feel like I have to earn the rapport. Whereas the more often than not, there are the rare occasions where maybe female on female energy is not good.
Yeah.
Same thing with men on men, and sometimes men with female, like the female thinks the man's trying to overrun them.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm like, more often than not, she just strolls into the rapport's already
Yeah.
built. She doesn't have to do all that. Doesn't have to overcome as many objections. And so I'm like, I want to see more women in the closers Olympics, but you got to put yourself out there. And so that's why I asked that, because I think there are some people that make being a parent an excuse. I've got two kiddos. I
Mhm.
love them to death, but at the end of the day, they know that I'm doing this
Mhm.
to provide the lifestyle that we have. Um, and they can't wait for Closers Olympics. I mean, Trinity
Right.
was there with me. When I won in 2021, he was right there with me. So I,
Yes.
I think it's awesome that you've been able to, build the lifestyle that you want while also maintaining being a great mom. And like you said, starting at a very young age, that could have just been your ultimate excuse, where you made it your ultimate why. Let's talk about what. How can people sign up for the Closers Olympics? What does it cost? What can they get? I know
Yeah.
Elijah's got his little sales pitch down, so I'm putting you on the spot. You got it? You got your sales pitch ready?
There's no sales pitch. I do this every day, so I'm here to. I feel like it's just for me. It's easy to sell something. Like what is it? I mean, I get a lot of things from Elijah. So you don't have to sell the truth. You just have to tell the truth, right? There's no way I would be doing this for the third year if I didn't really believe in it. It's really not something I like make a lot of money from, or that just like it does. People don't even know up until now that I even do this. So a lot of the responsibility does land on me as an integrator, as the behind the scenes person. But I really truly believe that when I see uh what's going on in the world, like I don't really like to watch the news, I don't like to watch propaganda. I really believe that we're all so much more like each other than we're different. I think that everyone is, if we just got a chance to talk to each other, to see each other, we all face similar struggles. And many times we just feel divided because of what's being told to us that we should be divided. And not only that, but then when you consider the fact that, poverty is one of the biggest issues, one of the biggest evils in the world. When I think about being a single mom and not being able to provide for my daughter, I can't think of anything worse than that, than that feeling of not being able to provide for her. And I remember there was a time where I didn't even have money to, I don't think I've ever shared this, but I never even had money to buy her food. And I remember like literally resorting to putting the formula in my bag. It's basically shoplifting formula for my daughter at
Mm,
18, right? And now that I think about it, I'm like, I think I see how, how hard it is out there. And I feel like a responsibility. I feel like I can't even, like, if I don't do something to help people who are in poverty or who need a way to, pay their bills and to get out of that state, then I'm not doing right by, what God or what's been done to me, where I've been
right.
able to do that. So by me being able to share this event, being able to showcase how easy it can be for you to get on the phones and close deals, so you don't have to, do that, or your family doesn't have to go through hunger, you don't have to experience abuse, mental health issues, and put yourself in a position where you're not taking care of yourself and your family. I think that's the root of all evil. So that this is my way of like giving back to the world. And you can easily get, the replays and get access to the event for 297, which is a bundle. So you can watch 2020. They can watch you on the 2020 event. They can watch you in the 2021 event, winning that thing and closing two deals live. And I love it. I love to send people to the replays. Like, you guys don't tell me it's not possible. You can watch RJ closing two deals in 30 minutes. So whatever problems you're going through, I'm always sharing the Closer Olympics with people who are just experiencing like financial difficulties. And for 297, you basically get what, like 50 years of sales experience. I mean, probably even more than that, right? You get
Yeah.
millions of dollars of experience in sales in real estate, which is the ultimate equalizer. Anybody could get started in real estate.
My favorite part of the 2021 Closers Olympics was I talked to a seller and he says, "This is my first ever investment property that I bought. I don't know if I want to sell it yet." And it was the moment that clicked for me where I've always preached it prior to the Closers Olympics with the competitors. I said, we have a responsibility to do what's right when we're on the phone with the sellers. And what I told him is you could seller finance it to me
Mm-hmm.
and you could potentially make passive income moving forward. And I explained to him what seller financing was. And then everyone thought it was like showmanship. But I said, I'd really love for you to come to the Crucible so I could teach you what I do.
Oh
And
yeah, I remember you saying
it
that.
was such a cool moment because it was like during the Closers Olympics, and it's like that conversation would have been the same conversation I would have had with no lights on, no cameras on, nobody watching,
Mm-hmm.
but the opportunity to be able to do that, you're absolutely right. It's our responsibility to do it because real estate changed your life, it changed my life. And you're talking about the Closers Olympics. We had watch parties in Israel. We had watch parties in the Philippines. There are literally people around the world that want nothing more than to do what we do
Right.
every single day. And for $97, like you said, you get to watch what 3-4 days of
Mm-hmm.
experienced closers talking to sellers. For $297, you get 3 years of that. If you struggle talking to someone on the phones, why not? You're going
Right.
to waste that on data, on bad skit tracing that you saw off of a Facebook group. You don't
Right.
waste it on some other things. Why not have that in your back pocket? So I absolutely, you guys know this. It's an honor for me to be a part of it. I'm honored to be able to have the belt right behind me.
Yeah. Earned
Proudly carried everywhere I go. Not necessarily as like a bragging thing. It's about the fact that hey, what we do is important for our businesses, but it's also important for the sellers and changing people's lives. And like I appreciate you sharing that story about hey, you had to shoplift some formula to feed your baby. Um, Not anymore. Real estate changed your life, and now you're giving back. There's somebody out there in the same position, and hopefully they find a way to be able to watch the Closers Olympics and we change some more lives this year. Then, how can people find out about y'all's education if they want to learn how to sell some burnt down houses?
Yeah, so you can join the group. We have the Fire Damage Profits group on Facebook. You can follow me. I don't really post a lot because I'm working so much, but I plan on eventually posting and sharing more on Jen.Coronado on Instagram. And you can also follow Elijah, Elijah.Rubin on Instagram or Elijah Rubin on Facebook because I really manage a lot of the behind the scenes for any of his branding. I really create a lot of the pretty much anything that you see for coming from Elijah's coming from me. So it's something I believe in and that I'm making sure that we're delivering on. And obviously the Coastal Olympics is the main place I want everybody to go to because if you could go through the Coastal Olympics, I like when people come to me, RJ, and they're like, Jen, I've gone to the Coastal Olympics. I closed so many deals after this. Or I went to your Facebook group and I watched all the free trainings and I've closed this many deals. Like that's my favorite conversation to have. I don't know if that's the same with
Oh,
you. It's
yeah.
like, you know,
Listen, I've had so many conversations about the Closers Olympics and the impact of watching me had on certain people.
mhm.
It's that's why I love it so much because I know it's changed people's lives. So I thank you for giving me
You.
the opportunity to do it for three
Thank
years.
you.
Now,
Been
the most important question I got for you though is who do you have winning the 2022?
Ooh, I was about to ask you something first. I was gonna say, what are you prepared? Because Pace said he was betting 5K if Munif won and that you were gonna have to shave. I think was it shave your beard?
Yeah, with a single big razor that's rusty. Apparently, like
What?
yeah,
Oh,
it got like worse as the night went on. I almost
did
wanted
it
to know
get like
if he was
infection or
drinking back
something?
there. I was like, bro, first of all, a single big razor is not cutting this. Okay,
Right.
it's
Oh
like
my
you're just gonna get
god.
stuck in there.
That's funny. So all the bets are on. Are you accepting the bet? I guess that was my question.
Listen, I'm negotiating through Elijah right now. I
Okay.
because he didn't have Munif winning, he has Munif finishing in the top two. And so what I told Elijah is I was like, so what you're saying is I could win, Munif finishes second, and I still lose? No, no,
Yeah,
no,
that's
that's not
true.
how that goes down.
No, no, no. That does not seem fair at all. But
Yeah,
if he does win, which I'm sure you're gonna do everything you can to make sure that doesn't happen. So
yeah.
that's
We'll
also good.
we'll we'll talk with Mr. Pace about his little bet over there. But more importantly, who you got winning?
I feel like I really can't I can't really decide because I that's not fair. I'm like, the judge. That's like you're asking the referee who do you have winning? At the
Oh,
end of the day, obviously, I'm always gonna. I want to see a woman win that thing, so I'm rooting for
holy
Jen.
shit.
I'm
You're
definitely rooting for Jen. But it all has to be fair. So I feel like she's gonna be able to win it fair and square if she is able to get some good leads. I feel like she might be just a crowd favorite, and I feel like the judges are gonna score highly because she kind of just like wins people over. So I feel like that's just something
Are you
that
forgetting? Are you forgetting Elijah?
I mean, I want Elijah to win. I want him to win, but at the end of the day, if he doesn't win, he'll be fine, and and
All I'm
I'm putting
saying
on
is
for the women.
this is pure gold. This is pure gold. I am. This is going to be a reel right here where I prove that not even Jen thinks Elijah can win.
I
Thank
do
you,
think he
Jen,
can
for
win.
all of this trash talking gold.
I feel like he's placed before, right? He's did get this. What was it? Was it second? Is that second or silver? I think it
Yeah.
was like, yeah. So I know what he's capable of. Obviously, I mean he closes deals every day, so or almost every day when he's on the phones. And I want him to win, but being a co-owner, I just feel like there's that, I'm like, how are we gonna say you're gonna win? And then everybody's gonna think we like rigged it or something. So that's like my only issue with that. And I'm like, at the end of the day, he wants to showcase his skill. And I think it's just so different for the guy, like everyone who's a part of it, especially the guys, right? Because the guys have just like the competitive nature to it, where I'm not even phased by that, honestly. I really just care about you guys showcasing your best skills. I do love the competition aspect because it gets the people going. But I think that's one of the reasons why the women are more like not, as willing to put themselves out there because they're like, oh, it's a big ego thing. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's the whole point. Like, I love sports. So I love the winning aspect of it. So,
Right.
but I love how it gets everybody going. Like, what at the end of the day, it's a competition and you get the bragging rights. So I
I
look.
mean, I'm pretty realistic about my chances this year. I mean, I realized that because I won the last one, I can't essentially come in and do the exact same thing and expect to win. Because I think if I do that and someone else gets a signed contract, naturally that person is going to probably just the human element of a judge. Like
Mhm.
for Brent Daniels, if he watches me do the same thing I did 2021, and then he watches Jen come in, who's new, get a
Oh,
contract, there's that human element of, well, I haven't seen her do this, you know?
oh, it's like more
And so it's
impressive.
like I think I've got to. My opinion is I need to have multiple signed contracts in the finals to win.
I think you do. I feel like you've been setting the bar since the beginning. I don't think anybody knew what was going to happen. It was a lot of talking, right? So that puts you in that position, which actually I feel like it worked to your benefit. You talked about it last time where you were
Yeah,
like, I did all this trash talking, and then when it came down to execute, I had to execute. So I think that a lot of that came from that. But when you set the bar, even on the first one, you set
right.
your style and people they didn't really get to see you with a real good lead, but they got to see what you were about, and then the next time you crushed it and you set the bar even higher. So
I
I
do have a
think
question for you. Okay, because I'm serious. I'm going to go for multiple signed contracts in the finals, and so I feel like you're ahead of rules. Okay, so I always like to push the boundaries. So my final question for you before we wrap up is: can I have multiple phones, and can I talk to multiple sellers at once?
Wow, that's a curveball for sure. So you're saying you want to call different? I haven't said that we never had to not do it, but
I
I don't know if
I
you can.
can do it. I can talk to two sellers at once. I just don't know if the judges can keep up with it.
I mean, if they at the end of the day, it's gonna come down to the judges judging you based on rapport and all those pieces too. So I would just consider those factors. I mean, I don't see why not. We probably
I'll
have to
use the
adjust it.
Eric Klein strategy. Have you ever heard of what Eric Klein does?
I have not.
Eric Klein, in his script, has multiple moments where he puts sellers on hold for 3 minutes.
What?
He
So,
says, I have to go talk to my underwriter.
oh right.
Let me put you on a brief hold. And then he lets them sit there so he can hear what they say for 3 minutes. So what I was thinking is, I have two sellers. And I say, okay, let me take this back to my underwriter, put them on hold, talk to this one. Let me talk to my underwriter, put them on hold, come back.
You're sharing all your secrets. Everybody's gonna know. They're gonna have to
It
watch.
doesn't matter. None of them can pull it off.
Wow. Okay. Well, we're gonna have to get back to you on that one. I can't make a decision, but I don't. I mean, it's definitely definitely thinking out the box. I like it. I think you're gonna set the bar. If you do that, then that'll change the game for moving forward. We'll probably
I'm
have
out
to
with 4 contracts in the finals.
right. You have like
Almost
5
like,
different phones you're talking to. But yeah, that's very. I like the way you're thinking. That's for sure. That's at the end of the day, the goal is to showcase your skills. So
yeah,
I don't want to limit you.
there you go. All right, Jen. Thank you for hopping on here. Truly,
You.
you are the engine that makes this machine run. And thank you for everything that you put on behind the scenes because you're so selfless with it. I mean, seriously, you go do it. Yeah, you get a couple accolades at the end, but everyone else gets the FaceTime. So thank you for all the hard work that you put in. That's why I wanted to bring you on here and let everybody know that you're the person that puts on the show. So thank you so much for everything that you do for us.
Gracias. Thanks for putting on for the Close of the Olympics and for doing the 50 states. I think you're adding so much tremendous value to the community, and it shows. Ultimately it shows when you get on those phones. You can see you've been putting in the work. So we look forward to seeing you at the main event.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All right. See ya.